there's no evidence that I find credible that the cluster B psychopathologies are amenable to psychotherapeutic intervention. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And they're also generally a very, 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 you need a lot of varies to make that right, very difficult population to work with. And you do that at your peril.
Yeah, I think listening to you, the idea of false compassion can be used so against us, and an immature level of the development of empathy and compassion is easily taken advantage of.
Well, we know this because one of the things we know, for example, is so the dark tetrad males are differentially attractive to women, but mostly younger and naive women. Okay, so why? Well, the typical dark tetrad type is very confident and not anxious. Okay, so why would that be attractive to women? Because men who are competent in their domain are confident and not anxious. What the predatory psychopaths do is mimic that. And naive women can't tell the difference. And so they can be more attracted to the dark tetrad types, especially when they're young. And then there's the additional complication that the even more pathological dark tetrad types are very good at appealing to empathy by making claims of victimization. It's a nasty game. And the people who are good at it, they're better at it than you are at detecting it. I knew Robert Hare. Robert Hare was the first clinical psychologist who really delved into psychopathy and non-clinical psychopathy. And he recorded 200 conversations with like brutal criminal psychopaths. And he was quite an agreeable person, Robert Hare. And he said invariably that while he was talking to them, they had him convinced. And it wasn't until afterwards when he was watching the videos that he could see the tricks. And that's because these people are watching you more than you're watching them. And they're seeing which tricks work on you. And that's the game that's the goal of the game. Like if I was doing that to you, I'd be thinking, okay, well, I'm going to get this guy to smile more, right? I'm going to see if I'm going to see which lies I can get him to swallow. Because then I'd be testing you, let's say, for your gullibility. And so I'd start out with a little lie and watch you. And then if you swallowed it, I'd get a good boost of superiority, which is partly what I'm after. And then I'd try another lie. And if you detected that, well, I'd move in another direction, sort of map you for your gullibility. And then I'd find out how you could be exploited. And that'd be the whole purpose of the conversation. Yeah, and then add to that the fact that I've practiced that for 30 years and that maybe I'm as smart as you are or possibly smarter, right? I mean, depends on the situation, but...
How does a woman even begin to detect or notice the difference?
Well, part of the way that women have done that historically is by not going out with people they don't know, right? That aren't part of their social network, And one of the things about the psychopathic predators is that they're not very good at maintaining social connections. And so...
Wow, that's huge, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the dating apps and that sort of thing, they're a complete open playing ground for the psychopathic types. There's something even worse about this, actually. So the sexual revolution was predicated on the idea that we could alter female reproduction patterns so that they could act like men, basically, because men are more likely to take a short-term mating opportunity. And the promise of reliable birth control was that avenue of possibility would be open to women. Okay. And you might say, well, why not? Because, sexuality is pleasurable. And if you could reduce the cost, why not do it? All right. So that's what we've been experimenting with for 60 years. Okay. Well, one reason is that hormonal birth control alters females' perceptions. So women on the pill don't like masculine men as much. And what that's done to us politically and sociologically, no one knows. It's a big deal, and we don't know. But the other thing that's happened is, so imagine that you could imagine male reproductive strategies as being on a continuum. There are men who are more inclined towards long-term committed monogamous relationships, and there are men who are more committed to short-term hedonistic pleasure-seeking relationships. All right, so now imagine you took these men and you analyzed their personalities, and you took these men and analyzed their personalities. Well, that's been done. The men who prefer short-term mating opportunities are psychopathic, narcissistic, Machiavellian, and sadistic. Right. So one of the unintended consequences of the sexual revolution is that the freed up women have been delivered to the psychopathic men. Right. And what's the consequence of that? We don't know. We don't know. We know that young people are less likely to have relationships. We know that the birth rate is plummeted. We know that people are much less likely to get married. How much of that is a consequence of the destabilization of the reproductive pattern by hormonal birth control? No one knows.